your mind. This is the beginning. I got my mark seated in my eyes. This is the beginning.
We are back, and we're joined by Daniel McNicoll, the writer and director of the upcoming film Reclaiming the Blade, for the next 30 minutes. Daniel, how are you this evening?
Great. Thanks, Jason, for having me on.
No problem. Why don't you tell people what this project is and what they can expect from this film?
Well, let me first say that the force is strong with you, my friend.
Well,
and I mean
you.
that.
I
Keep the faith, keep up the good fight, and stay strong, my brother.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah. The film is well, you know, it's all about sword fighting and sword fight choreography. And there's a lot of celebrities in the film, of course. You know, the kind of the root of the story, for me, began with just getting to the, you know, this whole idea of swords being a symbol for justice, for freedom, for just a way of the common people to express themselves. And so that was kind of the inspiration for me as a filmmaker. And, you know, it's great to be on the phone with somebody like you who's a filmmaker themselves.
Well, thank you. Well, when you talk about that, and you talk about the sword and how the common people were able to stand up, I mean, back in the day when technology was more on a level where the elites had the same technology as the common person, you could stand up for yourself a lot more, and you seem to have a shot at the title, if you will. Now it's a little more lopsided. The military seems to have all these cool weapons and gadgets that we don't have. But again, you know, you go back only, 300-400 years ago, and people were mainly using these as the main weapons of warfare.
Sure.
And that's incredible to me, and we're all hooked on movies like, Lord of the Rings and other things that are kind of featured in your film. I don't know anybody who's not a Star Wars fan. I do know those people, but I don't like those people. They always give Star Wars fans a lot of guff. Some people take it to a new level, but I mean,
sure, I understand.
You look at those epic battles of, they don't have the blasters, and they're the real deal. I remember just being mesmerized by Empire Strikes Back as a kid, the dozens of times I was watching it after school, and thinking, man, that is the coolest thing. And it really is about good versus evil, especially in that kind of a, allegory of Luke versus, his father of evil. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and let me say, I mean, the technology at the time for swords was quite developed to a state that is even quite amazing by our own standards. To make a blade, when you look at the science of metals and the technology that was involved in it, it really took a lot of science that was behind the forging of these swords that were made from alloys, essentially, which was a mixing of blades and a forging and a crossing of the steels. And so the bladesmith, who I definitely lift my hat to all those bladesmiths from times gone, they did a fantastic job and a fantastic craft that was, as a scientist or a craftsman or artist, you have to appreciate what they did. It was quite amazing. And, so there was, even though they didn't live in the technological age that we live in today, it was still very much an age of information. And those who understood the technology of swords, bronze actually was not quite as strong as steel and the mix of alloys and whatnot. So it's actually quite similar to today, more so than you would think.
Now, do you go over some of like these great craftsmen, some of the legends of their days, or more along like the models that were used?
We do a little bit dive into the modern craftsmen. So, and that's what's exciting, is to see the modern practitioners and the modern craftsmen.
Well, let's talk about that and the choreography of such a project on the other side. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. Go check out the blog, theinfowarrior.com, or check us out live at prisonplanet.tv.
Let me tell you a little bit about one of our great sponsors, HomeGain.com. This is the place to get you started buying or selling a home, finding a realtor, and getting any real estate questions answered. Go to HomeGain.com and see what I'm talking about. All you need to do is type in your home address, and you will get an instant free estimate of your home's value online. This is a great way to be able to monitor the value of your home. And again, it's absolutely free. There are tons of tools to help you. For instance, if you want to remodel your home, go to homegain.com. Use their Home Sale Maximizer to help you determine which home improvements can most increase your home's value before you put it on the market. For 10 years, these folks have been helping home sellers and buyers. Visit their link at InfoWars.com. Look for Max, the orange home gain gorilla, to help you with any real estate needs you might have. You'll love this site. It's homegain.com, HOMEGAIN.com. Check them out today.
All right, very, very cool. We're back with the writer and director of Reclaiming the Blade. Go check it out at reclaimingtheblade.com. When is this set for release, by the way?
The actual release to Barnes & Noble and Blockbuster and Target, Amazon, and all that, it's going to actually be July 7th.
Excellent, excellent. And they can get it directly from the website, though, right?
Sure. They can actually go right now and order it on our website, which is reclaimingtheblade.com or swordmovie.com.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So how do you get involved in this? Like, what's the process of, I'm a documentary filmmaker, I want to express something. How do you get into, all right, I want to do a movie about swords?
Sure, that's a great question. I love talking about films, by the way, and I've been very impressed with the films that you've done. And to me, filmmaking is all about getting behind a story or a belief or a passion that you, really feel strongly about. That's what drives us all. And I think as filmmakers, and I think, Jason, you can understand this, we really want to dive into and delve into and really put our heart and soul into stories and into films that we care about, stories that we care about, people that we care about, events that we care about, and that's really what was at the heart and the soul of Reclaiming the Blade. I watched a lot of movies about all sorts of subjects with regards to documentaries. Documentaries about anything that you could possibly imagine, Spool, or just some random personality.
I was watching The Devil's Playground about the Amish kids on their Rumspringa over the weekend. I mean, that's the kind of dork that I'm, I can't get enough of docs. No, that is a good one. It's a classic.
Yeah, I love documentaries too. I mean, there's some good ones out there, and as I was watching these documentaries as a young filmmaker myself, more of a screenwriter, because my foray into filmmaking was screenwriting. I actually decided to write a script about Glastonbury, which is a lot of people in Britain will probably be familiar with Glastonbury because of the festival that is held there every year with the many artists that come through. But Glastonbury is actually a very interesting place because Joseph of Arimathea, who is the great uncle to Christ, actually is the legendary person who brought the Holy Grail to Britain. So I actually started writing about a screenplay about Joseph and how he brought the Holy Grail to Britain, and kind of the birth of all of the Arthurian legends and Caractacus, who fought against the Roman Empire. So it's a great story and a great script in regards. It's very much a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings type story where you have, an independent rebel force fighting against an empire. So it's a very cool story, and it also deals with the birth of Christianity in Britain during the first century, and we're talking about 100 BC. 180. And so it's quite fascinating in that respect. And so that was kind of my entry into filmmaking, and as a writer. And then I just saw an opportunity and dove in on the sword.
It's interesting you talk about the Holy Grail and such, because my big sword movie as a kid, the one that I probably wasn't supposed to watch when I was so much younger, was the original Excalibur with Patrick Stewart, and it has the Holy Grail in it as one of the main points, and the Knights of the Round Table, and it was just such an intense film. And one of the scenes that really sticks with me is there's this son-father battle, and the son is this witch's daughter, he's the bad guy, but in order to kill him, he gets slayed by this sword, and he has to pull himself on the sword to behead the guy. And that always stuck with me, and it was just so cool. And the swordplay in that, even to this day, really stands up. That movie's got to be, 30 years old at this point, maybe more. Yeah. And you don't see that as much anymore. I mean, every once in a while you get something. Even a Lord of the Rings seems almost too epic with all the CG. Yeah. I mean, Braveheart was probably the last big sword movie out there. in my opinion, Gladiator maybe to some extent, but again, all that CG. I love CG, don't get me wrong, and I see why filmmakers use it to tell their story, especially in big Hollywood pictures, but there's just something so gritty and real of being on the set and having the people actually there, in my opinion. And this, although it shows you a lot of the green screen stuff, you can tell just from the trailer. Do you get to go on like cool locations while these things are being shot when you shoot this, like actual movies, or you just kind of hang out with the choreographers?
Well, a lot of these films were already produced when we made the film.
Mm-hmm.
So we more or less hooked up with the filmmakers and the choreographers. That's a tough word. And so it was mostly hooking up with these people after they had already produced the films. In the case of Reclaiming the Blade, we actually met with Weta Workshop and Richard Taylor